Today's What in the World of Identity is brought to you by Identity Intelligence, your free guide to digital identity. In partnership with the Prism Project and Peak IDV, we'll be adding profiles on the top companies in digital identity. Learn more by going to identintel.com. Whilst there, be sure to subscribe with your email to receive new resource alerts and market updates. Now, handing it to Maxine and Steve.
Here we are, we're back.
I'm still rocking out to our new theme song. I really love it.
It really sets the vibe for the tone.
I like it. Yeah, it is definitely, it's awesome. Good job, Steve.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's Friday, April 11th, another crazy week in the world of identity. How was your week this week, Maxine?
This week was kind of crazy busy. Lots of stuff going on around events. You know, I was doing a lot of posting about some upcoming events, which are really exciting. If you're interested in that, you can actually check out the latest email that just went out from the Prism Project. If you're not on the mail list, that is posted on my LinkedIn feed as well. So that kept me busy. I was just having a lot of conversations, pre-event conversations, thinking about what I'm going to say, thinking about how I'm going to talk about the Prism Project and where we're going. So
yeah,
how about your...
Love all the content. It's been a lot of news, a lot of different updates. It was also quite a bit of business activity around checking on taxes and the deadline, and things are coming up April 15th. So working on that. But I did have time to do a post about an event we have coming up next month.
Yes, speaking of events, this is exciting. This is our first 3Beam live stream. This is something new.
And for those who have seen Is Doc V Dead, that was an event that I had hosted back in February. We're going to be doing an Is Doc V Dead style live stream with these esteemed panelists, with Maxine hosting and moderating. And then we'll have the pacing and the timing and really solid questions for it. So I'm really looking forward to that event. It's going to be May 6th, and this QR code will take you to the LinkedIn event page that you can register and get ready. We'll be having more and more updates as we get ready for that particular event.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this. This is something, again, new that we're collaborating on, that's kind of driven from the Prism landscape model, where we have different beams. And so we're bringing together vendors from different beams in the digital identity ecosystem to really kind of debate about, you know, what's happening with deepfakes and synthetic identity, what are the challenges and threats, and what kind of technology and solutions are out there to address them. And I'm really I think it's going to be really fun and exciting. And, you know, we're trying to kind of create something a little different than the typical boring talking head webinar podcasts that we're all sort of had enough of.
We've seen a lot of those. Well, let's move into one of the topics that was in my Friday update and something you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
Which is more backtracking from the Social Security Office on identity verification. What's your take on this one, on the in-person?
Well, I think this is good
backtrack?
news. Basically, they've decided they can't cut off senior citizens and disable people from phone service. So that's a good idea. This whole thing has just been a cluster, and I just think it's an example of being overzealous in trying to say, hey, yeah, we can fix this problem with technology, because you always have to, as I've been saying for 2 weeks now, as this story's been going on, you have to look at who your audience is. You have to look at who the end users are and what they can do with technology and how accessible it is to them and what their capabilities are. And so this is good for America. It's good for Social Security recipients. And I think it's just a cautionary tale about getting out over your skis on technology deployment.
What I found interesting about some of the articles, there was one from CBS, there was one from The Hill that you shared with me, is they're talking about in-person verification. They're also talking about remote online verification. And then now they're talking about phone verification, and that they have some ability suddenly to check for fraud against phone verification. So I'm really curious if they're using one of the solution providers in the ecosystem that we know, or if it's some other magical system that they've just encountered in the last few weeks that they're using.
Yeah, the fact that it was like, oh, we can't do identity verification over the phone is it's just silly, right? So again, this goes to really understanding the problem set, understanding the end user community, and developing a multi-pronged solution that works miraculously, Steve, in real time, remotely via computers and mobile devices and over the phone. It's amazing, right? There's tech out there that can do that, folks. And we're obviously not doing a good enough job communicating to the world that that is the case.
Many of those that watch this program or that engage on our content can provide some of these technologies. So I think it's a great opportunity. Well, let's go on to the next one. This was not in my update. It might be a little bit hard to read. Let me make it bigger. But this is something in the New York Times about Trump and Doge and data points and all these things.
We can't
getting
get
access
away
to everything and building a master database of everyone's lives. It seems a little bit overreaching.
It's kind of scary stuff. It's kind of scary stuff. This whole idea of like, okay, we're going to take all the data we have on American citizens, American residents, legal immigrants, illegal immigrants. I guess that's not the terminology of choice. What is the terminology of choice?
Undocumented.
Undocumented. Thank you. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but the whole notion is they just want to take data on everybody that's in the country and all this data that's stored across all these different agencies and say, yeah, let's just put this all together in one large database, which is, oh my God, there's a list. It's frightening, right? Especially when we're thinking about how do you build really useful identity solutions that can also respect people's privacy and leave them with a level of comfort that they have control over their data. And this is the opposite of that, right? And we can have discussions, pros and cons about national identity systems, and I've spoken about that before. It's a real challenge in the US because we don't have a centralized digital identity system, national ID system that allows us to vet people's identity. But this is like a really bad way of kind of back-ending into this with all kinds of data that should never be really cross-referenced in the way they're trying to do it here.
Yeah, well, two topics that are a little bit US-centric around Social Security data and the data on all of the folks in the US. There is one more topic that I think is pretty universal, which is synthetic identities and deepfakes and how those propagate. This diagram you published yesterday through the email, and I think you posted it on LinkedIn. Would be great if we could wrap up with like, what is this diagram and what's the origin and what's it
so there's a lot of information here, and one of our colleagues that we work with came up with a name for it, which was a cluster classification graphic, which is a lot of alliteration and a lot of words. But basically what we're trying to do here, and again, I know it's hard to see because this is it's kind of a
bigger and bigger and bigger.
But yeah, we're going to disappear behind it. But the idea is to kind of break down the different types of synthetic identity that can be used. And we've kind of created these different classifications, which is a full synthetic identity, which would be like a deep fake and all, created data that isn't related to any real human being. A partial synthetic identity, which would be either a deep fake with real personally identifiable information or a real face with fake or fabricated personally identifiable information. And then the third one is the hybrid. And this is where I think things start getting really interesting, because you can take a deepfake generated image and some real PII and some fabricated PII, or you could take a real person's image and some fabricated PII and some real PII. And this can, we talk about this in terms of video, images, and also voice. But the idea is there's these different configurations, and a lot of people are talking about deepfakes and synthetic identity, but I see them referring to it from the technical solutions that are used to create them or detect them, and not as much from the way that they present in a given attack scenario, basically. So that's what we're trying to do here, is to kind of break it down so we can start thinking about how synthetic identities and deepfakes are used together in different scenarios. And this is kind of a preview of the deepfake and synthetic identity report we're coming out with in May. And we're going to follow this chart with actual scenarios for vertical markets that leverage this classification
Mm.
traffic. So I'm really excited about where we're going with this. And again, it's trying to break it down in terms of the way the end user universe looks at this, not from the perspective of, oh, there's this deep fake technology and there's these type of GAN models and all this technology talk that um, doesn't really get at the key challenges that are being faced in different vertical industries when they're confronting the use of deepfakes and synthetic identity.
This one pairs really nicely with the one that we discussed last week, which is the vulnerabilities across the
Right.
IDV user journey and where these can layer in. And this gives the detail on what are those specific attacks at those points. So this is a good evolution. For the three beam stream that we discussed earlier, how do you see this coming together with those particular beams aligning to this diagram and ultimately into the report that's coming out in May?
Well, the whole premise of the Prism project and the Prism landscape is that in order to create um, truly useful, scalable, reliable digital identity solutions, we have to look across the entire ecosystem. As we were talking about before, right? Like, oh, Doge was like, we can't use telephones as a way of getting reliable verification of identities. And we know that's not true, right? So the whole notion is, how do you tie these things together? How do you look at the different channels where people that you're interacting with people, and how do you create a um, secure, reliable digital identity ecosystem that can manage any of those touch points and any of those channels through which you are interacting with human beings?
Excellent. Well, we'll post the links. You shared these on LinkedIn. We'll post those in the comment stream. Our music died out, so we are at
Must
time
be
for
done then.
today. It's another week done, another Friday. Thank you all for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your day and have a
Yeah,
nice
and
weekend.
happy Passover to those who celebrate this weekend. It's Passover, which is a really joyous and important holiday for people who are um, Jewish people all over the world. So I'll be celebrating.
Have a great holiday. All right.
Okay.
Bye.